Welcome to Dorking Out. My name is Sonia Mansfield, and would you like to roll in the hay? It's fun. Roll, roll, roll in the hay. Joining me is my podcasting sister from another mister and the co-host of Dorking Out, Margo D. Hello, my friend.
My grandfather's work was doo-doo.
Doo-doo! Watch your mouth, lady. We don't have that
No
kind.
shit.
We don't have that kind of fucking potty talk on this podcast. We are dorking out about 1974's Young Frankenstein. This popped into our head because Cloris Leachman passed away this week, and it's a bummer. I mean, she led a really good life, but she's funny as shit, and we just really wanted to talk about Young Frankenstein, which is written by Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks. I forgot that Gene Wilder was a co-writer on this.
Mm-hmm.
And directed by Mel Brooks, and it stars Gene Wilder, Peter Boyle, Marty Feldman. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Cloris Leachman, Teri Garr, Kenneth Mars, Madeline Kahn, national treasure.
Yeah.
Madeline Kahn. And then we have Gene Hackman in a small role as well. Can you tell me, when did you first see Young Frankenstein?
I can't remember because it's been part of my family my whole life. It was like my parents' favorite movie. My dad loved Mel Brooks movies, so it was something we watched as a family whenever it was on TV. And then when I was like 18 or 19, I worked at Stone Ridge Mall, Pleasanton, California, and we had a store that sold athletic gear and dance gear, like leotards and shit. And during Halloween, we sold Halloween costumes. It was the worst month of the year because it was just cheap shit that we sold to people. But what we used to do during the year is we would play aerobics videos and and stuff we recorded from TV, like ESPN shit.
Yeah.
Well, for this time, for Halloween, we were allowed to play horror movies and scary movies and funny scary movies. And so we all loved Young Frankenstein. So I've seen this movie so much, I can literally repeat it to you. I can just act it all out for you. That's how many times I've seen it. And I don't get tired of it.
No, because it's hilarious. I did not grow up with Young Frankenstein. I don't know, Mel Brooks wasn't like a thing in my house. We liked Spaceballs. Like Spaceballs was on in my house. I think my dad has a fondness for Blazing Saddles, but I don't recall watching it a lot growing up. And Young Frankenstein wasn't something I saw, I think, until I was in college.
Yeah, my parents talked like Young Frankenstein, like throughout their marriage. I just grew up with that. That and like when Dad got excited from the producers, he would yell, "There's our Hitler!"
Your dad sounds so rad.
They were really funny.
But this movie is one of my husband's favorite movies, so we've watched it a few times together, and I can't believe that we haven't watched it during this pandemic. Like, it is one of those movies that makes us laugh really, really hard when we watch it. So I was really excited to rewatch it, and you're so funny. You're like, how are you going to watch it? Are you going to rent it? And I was like, I think we own it. Maybe we own it. I don't know. And then I went looking and I was like, we own it on a Blu-ray. And I didn't even know that. So it was such a good rewatch. It's funny. It's just so funny. There are like 60 versions of Frankenstein out there. Like, I looked it up. There's like almost 60 movies that are somehow based on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And I'm like, this has to be like, what? There's the original Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Young Frankenstein. Those ones are the best, right? And the rest are all
absolutely.
like whatever, like all the other Son of Frankenstein, whatever. They're all out there. They're probably fine. They're fine. But those three are like the best. Young Frankenstein's probably one of the best, right?
I think it's probably the best Frankenstein movie by far. I super love it. And I also, when I was looking at the cast, and almost all of them are gone, and they almost all died young, except, we have Gene Hackman and Mel Brooks, and Teri Garr is still here.
Yeah.
But Madeline Kahn is gone. Marty Feldman died a few years later. I mean, it's heartbreaking. They're so goddamn talented. And then I do this thing to myself that I make myself crazy, in that when I love a comedy, I check to see if it's a classic, like, did it get any Oscar nominations? And
Mm-hmm.
it got a few,
Yeah.
I think, for art direction and maybe even for the script.
If
But I'm
for the
like,
script,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, but I'm like, Gene Wilder is doing everything an actor does
Yes.
in one film, in one role, like Kathleen Turner in Romancing the Stone. Like, he's doing every single thing,
Yes.
and he does it beautifully. And then who gets a nomination but Dustin Hoffman for that shitty movie Lenny? You know,
Okay, so
ugh.
we've talked about this before, like, especially when we talk about comedies. There are
Hmm.
certain performances that like just fucking set the bar, right? They're so like when we did When Harry Met Sally. Meg
Hmm.
Ryan in When Harry Met Sally is one of the best performances of all time, in my opinion.
Hmm.
I think Sally is what everybody is trying to achieve now in their romantic comedies. She's funny as shit. You fucking love her. She's so, so good. And Gene Wilder is so, so good in this movie. And then I look to see who's nominated for Best Actor that. Yeah, and it's like Dustin Hoffman for Lenny. It's like, wah, wah.
Give me a
You know,
break.
and then the winner was Art Carney for Harry and Tonto. That's a movie
I saw that too.
I'm like, I don't know what that movie is. Maybe he's really good in it. I don't know. But then like Albert Finney in Murder on the Orient Express, I'm like,
And he was just okay in that. I mean, he's fine.
yeah. I mean, Jack
But I didn't think
Nicholson,
like Godfather 3 or
yeah,
2, excuse me, was
yeah.
in there.
Jack Nicholson for Chinatown, Al Pacino, Godfather Part 2. Those make sense to me. But
Absolutely.
these other ones, I'm like, meh. They're
I
big
am
mess.
more and more impressed every single time I've watched this movie. And I've seen it a couple of hundred times, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
And Gene Wilder always gets me. Like, he's just giving everything. He's smart, he's sexy, he's neurotic, he's a mess,
Yeah.
he's quick. I just think he's everything. And then Marty Feldman as Igor.
Is it Igor or Igor? It's Igor. It's Igor.
And this is another thing my dad would always say, well, they were wrong then, weren't they? I'm telling you, there's so much of my family in this movie that I just love. But should we say what the plot is, or?
Before we do that, I just want to say one more thing about Marty Feldman. Every single time he showed up in this movie, I laughed out loud. Like,
Yeah.
no joke. I'm not even exaggerating. Like, just the Igor, like the way he like rubs his head against Gene
Yes!
Wilder, like the hump moves, or like
What hump?
what hump? The interaction with Madeline Kahn. He starts biting her first.
You take the blonde, I'll take the one in the turban.
Just
That scene, I'm rolling.
like he was like kind of like touching the stole, and then he's like nom, 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 nom. Like just I laughed so hard. Like everything he did in this movie made me laugh. But yes, we should go through it just in case. If you haven't seen Young Frankenstein, you should pause this, go watch Young Frankenstein, and then come back. Okay, let's talk about what it's about. Go for it, Margo. You're so good at doing the
Okay.
rundown.
Okay, so it's Victor von Frankenstein. He is a Frederick von Frankenstein. Yes, Frederick Frankenstein. So we find out he pronounces Frankenstein, not Frankenstein. He has nothing to do with the family. That his grandfather was a crazy man, Victor. And at the beginning of the movie, we learn his grandfather died and he's a part of the will. And he then travels to Transylvania and in a train with, I love it, the old couple that's fighting about something in New York. And then they're doing the same thing in Germany.
Yes.
Like, they're just, let him.
Let him.
But then he shows up in Transylvania. Pardon me, boy. Is this the Transylvania? There's so much fucking funny here, you guys. He has Elizabeth is Madeline Kahn. That's his fiance. And
I love her so much.
So beautiful, so funny, so quirky, so hilarious. This came out the same year as Blazing Saddles.
I wrote this in my notes. That is fucking bananas to me. It's just like two of the like all-time comedies, and he did them both like back to back, and they came out in the same year. That is insane. And she's so She's so, first of all, she's adorable. Everybody drink.
Yep.
And she's just so funny. And their scene at the train station where, like, she's like, don't mess up my lipstick. Oh, my hair. Don't mess up my nails. Taffeta. Like, they end up, like, rubbing elbows, which is
very COVID.
Very COVID friendly. She's very COVID friendly.
But he's going to find out what's in the will, and then he's going to come back and marry her. He arrives in Transylvania at the station, and that's where he meets Igor. And Igor. And Igor's grandfather was the assistant to Frankenstein's grandfather. So they kind of inherits this guy as his assistant. We then in the back of the what are we talking about? What am I saying? When they're riding to
when they're riding
the castle.
In like some sort of like it's like a hay bale or something. Yeah.
And that's where we meet Teri Garr rolling in the hay, and so beautiful,
so gorgeous. She's
oh my god,
gorgeous, in this
and
movie.
So funny.
I love Teri Garr. I've always loved Teri Garr, and I just love her in this movie. She's so great.
She is, and that's where we meet her. And then they get to the house, excuse me, and that's where we meet Frau Blucher, which is Cloris. And that's Cloris Leachman, who's playing twice as old as she actually is. She's a very attractive woman, but she's playing this spinstery type, and she's showing, and she brings them in, and she has a candlestick. See, my mom would always do Blucher, and my dad would always do Marty Feldman.
This is so funny to me that your parents did this.
Constantly. And like she has the candlesticks, but they're not lit. And then she's like, stay close to the candles. The staircase can be treacherous. And she takes them to their rooms, and then Victor, in the middle of the night, they hear a violin sound. And then this is the other scene. Like, there's so many fucking funny scenes here. But he hears this violin sound. It wakes him up. Oh, destiny, no escaping that from me. Destiny. He has a dream, and he's singing that. And so there's the sound coming, and then he and Inga, that's Teri Garr, they figure out there's this, if they lift the candle, the bookcase turns around in his bedroom, and it leads to a secret passage. And the whole bookcase scene is freaking hilarious.
It's so funny.
It's the funniest damn thing. And then they go downstairs, and there's sort of this inner layer, and they go down to this layer, and that's where his real bookcase, the doctor, his grandfather.
That's where he finds the book entitled How I Did It.
And then we also see like several heads in a jar. 3 years dead, 2 years dead, 1 month dead. Then the other one's just Marty Feldman. You got nobody. Igor, Frederick.
Like, seriously, we could just sit here and do Igor quotes all for the entire show, and I would just giggle. Like,
this movie, it's just joke. It's like every scene is hilarious. There's no wasted scenes.
Yes, and that's another thing we've talked about when we talk about comedies. Like, modern comedies don't have jokes anymore. They give us situations that we're supposed to find funny, and if you don't, well, then this shit's not going to work for you. And Young Frankenstein is, here's a joke. If that joke doesn't work for you, there's going to be another one in 1 second that will work for you. It's so good.
Not a lot of subtext. It's really just there.
Yes.
You should be able to get it. Like, what knockers?
Look at those gorgeous knockers.
Thank you.
Thank you, doctor.
So he finds out that his grandfather, Victor, really did think he could reanimate life. And so he and Igor are going to go out and create the monster. And they go out to the graveyard for the 7-foot Peter Boyle. Peter Boyle is hilarious.
So funny.
In this movie. So funny. And they bring him together, and they're using and they use a lot of original stuff from Universal. They had a lot of those sets that were there. I mean, it's really, if you have seen those movies, you will recognize a lot of the stuff, which is great.
Yeah, that's another thing I love about the movie, and I think has worked for me the more I've watched it and the older I get, because this movie is made with such affection for Universal monsters. that if you watch Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, all the other Frankensteins, the old Frankensteins, not the new one with like Robert De
Robert De
Niro,
Niro. Yeah,
whatever.
that's not good.
No. If you watch those and then you watch that, like, it's not done mean-spirited in a mean-spirited fashion. It's really affectionate. It loves those movies. And
Yes.
yeah, I love that they use a lot of the same set and props, and it's really good. It's I keep saying that it's really good, but it is
I
really
know.
good, and
I
it's
know.
gorgeous to look at, like
Yeah.
because it's black and white. It looks beautiful, and everyone's so fucking funny in it. But I love the scene where Igor goes to get the brain. And he scares himself, and he's supposed to get the brain of like a real
Hans Delbruck.
yeah, like a genius, like a scientist. And
And scholar or scientist and good man. It was like something like that.
and instead he scares himself and he drops the brain and he breaks the brain. So he grabs another brain, and it says on it like abnormal, do not use, which I'm like, what are they using it for? But whatever. Like, and then later when asked, he's like, no, I didn't get you the right brain. This one belonged to someone named Abby Normal. Abby Normal.
So yeah, he put an abnormal brain in the monster, and at first he's okay, but then of course he lights a cigarette, he lights a match, that scares him off. And so then he goes into the village, and that there's all those scenes about the village, in those old movies, and they're doing the whole thing here.
I have to tell you a story about the little girl by the well, which,
yes,
by the way, makes me laugh really, really hard. Where she's like, "What should we throw now?" And like he look at the camera, like, hmm. So, my husband grew up in Pasadena, and his neighbor is that little girl.
Stop it.
Yeah, her and her brother were child actors, so he actually knew her when she did this movie.
What'd she say? Anything?
He just said that like she really liked it. She had like a super. They were just little kids. They were like 5 or something. But he was like, that was my neighbor. He's like, she had such a good time. She loved doing stuff like that, and her brother was an actor too. And like my husband's father was an actor too, so he did like guest appearances on TV shows and stuff like that.
Wait,
and then,
what?
I've never told you this?
No.
So yeah, his father was an actor, and then eventually he became so here on the East Coast and maybe here on the West Coast, they have the Maytag Man. Do you okay. I guess in the Midwest they have someone that's like the Lennox Man. Do you know the Lennox Man?
No.
Okay, it's the same kind of thing. It's like an appliance company, and they have the Maytag Man, and they had the Lennox Man. David's father was the Lennox Man.
How exciting.
Yeah. And he passed away like before I could meet him, but I've seen pictures of him and he was very handsome. Just saying. What
was his name?
William Tracy.
Okay, I'm gonna look him up.
Yeah. He's a handsome dude. I'll send you a picture.
Yes, please.
Anyway.
Okay, so there's a scene where he's throwing. She's like, "Oh, I love my pretty little flower," and then he shows up, Frankenstein monster.
What should we throw now?
What should we throw in now? And then he like sits. She makes him sit on the seesaw, and then she flies into the bedroom. It's just great. But he's eventually wooed home by the sound of the violin, Victor playing the violin. So he comes back to the castle, climbs the castle, is hoping for them to crawl him back in. And Gene Wilder's like, no, don't help him. He wants to do it himself. He does that great face, like, what? But they bring him back in, and they put him in a cage. And Gene Wilder says, okay, I'm going in there. No matter what happens, do not open that door. I don't care if I'm screaming, yelling, do not open that door, okay? And they three of them go, okay. he goes in there, the monster screams, and he goes, "Get me the hell out of here
Yeah,
right
like
now! Get me out! Get me out!"
instantly. I was joking. Don't you know I joke when you hear it? Let me out.
But then they bond. They have a
Mhm.
bond, and he's like crying in his arms, like, "Oh, this is a mama's boy."
Yeah,
Oh.
you're such a good boy.
So he's going to show the town and everybody that he created the monster, but the monster's not to be feared, that the monster is good. So the best way you could do that is you go on stage and you
Sure.
sing
This is the
"Putting
best.
on the Ritz."
Yeah, of course you do.
And so they wear tuxes and they're tap dancing and they have the top hats and the canes. And it's this great dance sequence.
It's so
Putting
funny.
on the Ritz.
Okay, I so desperately wish I could have seen this in a theater with people
Yeah.
when it first came out to hear the audience reaction to that, because you know, as a kid you like grow up, you watch different shows, the joke is ruined for you.
Right.
By the time I saw Young Frankenstein, I already knew what was going to happen in that scene, but like to see it in a theater and they're tap dancing and doing their thing, and then for him to go putting on the red, like, oh my, people must have lost their minds. Like, it must have been the funniest thing ever.
I got to see this movie live, and it was about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was in Jersey City, and it was an evening or an afternoon, excuse me, with Mel Brooks.
Oh my
Still
gosh.
alive.
Yes.
Still super quick.
Yes.
I mean, just to watch that movie with a bunch of with 5,000 geeks that know every word and know every. I thought it wouldn't be fun. It was even more fun. Like, there's so many. He's gonna have an enormous Schlumstucker. He'll be very popular. It's like all these jokes. People, I mean, it was so much fun, and the dancing sequence is completely hilarious. So the monster, then one of the lights goes out and he freaks out, and so they put him in a cage again.
Yes.
And this is like the public cage. And then Victor goes back to the castle, and he and Inga have a fling on that table.
Yes.
That's up in
I told you not to bother me while I'm working.
And then that's when Frau Bruckler says, "Well, your fiance's on the way, so you might want to get ready. I suggest you put on a tie." So Elizabeth comes to visit, doesn't know anything that's happening. Darling. And it's Marty Feldman eating up her first stole is just one of the funniest things you'll ever see.
It just makes me laugh. I laughed so hard. Like, we had to pause the movie because I was laughing so hard at his reaction to her. Like,
the four of them.
Yes.
Like, they're all so hilarious and responding to one another. And she comes in, and then she gets kidnapped by the monster.
Yes.
And then they have sex.
He wins her over with his monster-sized dick.
Woof. But she sings, and then her hair turns into Elsa Lanchester.
It's so funny.
Which is hilarious. And then Victor decides he's going to do an operation where he shares the brain with the monster. And it's like for 15 minutes, not a minute, more or less. Of course, everybody, and the guy, what am I thinking of? Like, what's the man's name with the arm?
The Inspector Kemp.
Yeah, Kenneth Mars.
Yes.
Fucking hilarious.
So
that whole
funny
thing with the arm is so funny.
All of this where they're where he first goes to talk to Gene Wilder and they're playing darts. He sticks the darts in his arm.
And then he pretends like he does that grouping. And then one of the stunts, you hear a cat scream, and that was supposedly Mel Brooks. Like, he did that as a goof. I mean, there's so much. These people must have been cracking up day and night.
I know.
It's so ridiculous and so fun. But the townspeople come in. It interferes with it. So there's a little bit of Victor left in the monster and a little bit of monster left in Victor. And the monster and Elizabeth get married. And she's all excited because she got him the 2 hampers.
Yeah.
One for his clothes. One for your socks and poo-poo undies.
Your poo-poo undies. Please tell me you had fun at Father's party. He threw it all for you.
And then she comes dancing into the room, like kicks off her Santa. Da 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 da.
In the hair with the Bride of Frankenstein hair, and like he's like,
And then at the very end, Teri Garr and Inga and Dr. Frankenstein are getting married. They're in their marital suite. And then he comes in, and then it turns out he basically inherited his dick or just his prowess.
Like, I don't know how that works, but okay.
I'm not sure how, but I'll take it.
Sure.
And then Inga starts singing, "Oh, this mystery of life, unless I found you," and that's it. And that's the movie. And there's just so many laughs.
It ends on a dick joke, basically.
Yeah. Which I'm fine with. I mean, this movie just beat for beat. There's not a wasted scene. There's so many jokes going on. And this is the thing, like, you watch it, you discover, like, this last time I watched it last night, I noticed that Marty Feldman was, like, rubbing his head against the elder's arm.
It made me laugh so hard.
Oh, my God.
There was just something about Marty Feldman's performance, like, clicked with me much more this time than it has in years past. And I just couldn't stop laughing at him. It's just comedy perfection. Like, they use him just enough. Like, if he had been in it like a little bit more, you'd be like, I get it. But like, it's like the perfect amount. And I love the stuff with Gene Hackman as the blind man in the woods.
The best scene.
Where he's just like, he's so lonely and he's so excited that he has a guest and it's the monster. And like, because he's blind, he's just like burning him and scalding him with hot soup.
And then lighting his thumb on fire.
And he's just so lonely. It's so sad. And he just treats
Gene Hackman, by the way. Like, it's so crazy. You don't think of him doing comedy. Yeah, and he's so funny. I loved when I was in the audience when they do that cheers and then he destroys his mug. And then the monster just looks at the ceiling like, are you kidding me?
Like
it's
nothing.
The funniest double take. Oh my God.
And then there's the monsters like choking Gene Wilder, and they're supposed to give him a sedative. A sedative?
A sedative?
A sedative! I'm just going to start yelling that around the house.
I know.
We do putting on the Ritz around here sometimes. Sometimes David just yells, putting on the Ritz. But I'm going to start yelling, sent to give. Sent to give! It is... Oh, God, it's just so funny. And there's also, I was reading some of the, like, you may not know about Young Frankenstein. Did you read the thing about Walk This Way?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Did you already know that? This was news to me.
I knew that for years, yeah.
There's a scene where, Igor is like, walk this way. And he literally means, like, you need to walk like me, and, like, gives him a cane and all this stuff. And apparently it was the inspiration for Aerosmith's Walk This Way, which I did not know that. I learned something. So it was nominated for Best Sound and Adapted Screenplay. And let's see, what won Adapted Screenplay? What could possibly beat it? Oh, Godfather 2. Okay, well.
No, that's fair. But how did it not get for art direction is beyond me.
Right. Like, okay, let's go to art direction here and see what could possibly have been better than that. Art direction. Well, Godfather Part 2.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, Chinatown, sure. But here, some of these other ones. Earthquake.
No.
Towering Inferno.
Not art direction.
Come on. And then something called The Island at the Top of the World.
I don't even know what that is, so no.
By the way, I love that The Towering Inferno is nominated for so much shit now that I'm looking at this. It won for film editing, which, by the way, Blazing Saddles was also nominated.
Yeah, I think Blazing Saddles hurt his chances for Young Frankenstein. Like, if he had done it a year later, I think he probably would have gotten more attention.
Oh, Madeline Kahn was nominated for Blazing Saddles.
She is fucked. I want to talk about that movie, but it's a little controversial.
Yeah, that movie was on our list. It has been on our list since the beginning. And we actually were going to do it But
But then Black Lives Matter
yeah, and
happened
I was
again.
like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
could lead to a conversation that like we're not the people to have it, I guess,
Exactly.
but I mean, we could certainly talk right now. Like, Blazing Saddles is fucking funny. It's funny. Is it problematic? Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. But there are things in Blazing Saddles that are really, really funny. And she is
Uh,
one of them.
Madeline Kahn is so brilliant in Blazing Saddles. I mean, she's just the funniest thing ever. She's also in a movie I love that I hope we talk about one day called Betsy's Wedding.
I haven't seen that in so long.
I love that movie so much, and she's so cute in that.
That's Alan Alda and
Yep,
Molly
Molly
Ringwald.
Ringwald.
Yes.
Hmm.
That's
It's a good movie.
Yeah, we'll put that on. It is on our list. You put that on our list a while ago.
Yeah.
We should do a whole we could do an Alan Alda appreciation podcast, cuz
Oh, that would be good.
he is wonderful. We love Alan Alda. We've talked about
Indeed.
him. We talked about him as a not a creep. I
Oh,
think,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Other things I wanted to mention, Gene Wilder has done 3 movies with Mel Brooks, so it was The Producers, which is really fucking funny. Blazing
Hilarious.
Saddles and Young Frankenstein. All of those movies are on like the American Film Institute's 100 funniest movies of all time list. I mean, that's a real like what a creative partnership.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so funny. And Gene Wilder, what a special actor he was. He was special.
He really was, and I don't know if he's ever really appreciated as much as he should be. Like I said, he does everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is so funny, and yeah, he does like crazy and neurotic. But then, and he does all these movies with Richard Pryor, and like they were so funny together. Like not
Mhm.
all the movies are that funny, but like they are funny together. Like he's just a very special actor, I think. Like he was right for a certain kind of part, and he's really good at that.
Yeah, crazy hair too.
Crazy hair. And I mean, we could talk about like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory sometime. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
that's another like all-timer performance from Gene Wilder.
Mhm.
He's awesome.
He's great. I love how pompous he is sometimes. Like, hello, I'm a rather brilliant surgeon. I could help you with that hump. What hump?
I remember I used to watch Inside the Actor's Studio all the time. Did you watch that?
Oh yeah, I loved it. What are your
And-
favorite curse words?
What are your favorite I used to love watching Inside the Actor's Studio. And I watched one with Gene Wilder. I don't remember everything about it, but I do remember they talked about the Woody Allen movie, Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Sex and We're Afraid to Ask. And it was Gene Wilder was in that movie as a man who's in love with a sheep. Do you remember this?
Oh, no.
Have you ever seen the movie?
Yeah, but I don't remember
Yeah,
it.
you're fine, trust me. But it's a collection of different like skits really or something, and his was he's in love with the sheep. He's a sheep fucker basically. And Robert Osborne, or not Robert Osborne, what's his name? James something.
Yeah.
Whatever. That guy. He asks him like what was it like to like fall in love with a sheep or whatever, and he's like, "Well, I just had to find something about the sheep that I thought was really lovable or sexy." And he's like, and it turned out the sheep actually had this like almost like black eyeliner around his eyes. He's all, it was really sexy. Like, and he meant it as a joke, but like the delivery of is very attractive. It was like so funny that like here I am like what 15 years later and I remember this like 5-second thing from Inside the Actor's Studio because the way he delivers it was so funny.
James Lipton.
Thank you. Jeez. Robert Osborne was the gentleman on Turner Classic Movies.
Yes.
And did we already mention how adorable Teri Garr is in this movie? She's gorgeous and beautiful and perfect.
Gorgeous and beautiful. And she's the one that came up with the name Schlumstucker. She was living with Gene Wilder at the time. They had a romance.
Aww.
I know. I wish they got married.
He married a lot of people.
Yes.
From what I understand. Like, I think he was married twice before Gilda Radner, and then Gilda Radner.
Once after.
So yeah, so sad. That was
Yeah.
so sad. I don't even want to talk about it. I'll start crying. Do
Yeah.
you want to hear the top 10 movies of 1974?
Yes, please.
Okay. Number 10 is Murder on the Orient Express, which is
Okay.
it's fine. The Life and Times of Grizzly Adams. Sorry,
God, those Grizzly Adams movies. You could not escape them. I think it was a TV series too.
Wasn't it? Did they call it
Yeah.
like Gentle Ben? Or was it called Grizzly Adams?
I think it was called Grizzly Adams. I could be wrong though.
We totally watched that stuff in my house. That sounds familiar. Number 8, The Longest Yard.
Yeah.
Number 7, Airport 1975.
Never seen it.
I haven't seen parts of it. This is when a lot of those like big disaster movies were coming out. So you're going to hear a couple more on this list. Number 6, The Godfather Part 2.
Excellent movie.
Which is great. Number 5, The Trial of Billy Jack.
Never seen it.
Don't know this one. Number 4, Earthquake.
Never seen it.
Number 3, Young Frankenstein.
Of course. Yes.
Number 2, Blazing Saddles.
Yep.
And then number 1 is The Towering Inferno.
It is an enjoyable movie. It's
Yeah.
a very watchable movie. I remember it was one of the first ones on HBO.
Yes.
When we got HBO, we were one of the first. We were like one of the test neighborhoods for it.
We were too.
Yeah.
And I totally remember the tower. That's the only way I've seen The Towering Inferno. It was one of the like 5 movies we had.
And a horror movie called Audrey Rose. That's what I remember watching all the time.
That's hilarious that you remember those things.
Oh yeah.
And then I think they also started airing the like TV movie version of Salem's Lot. I remember that being on there a lot.
Yeah, they had also, they were really into comedy specials, so they used to have like every year the Young Comics of the Year.
Oh yeah, I remember that too.
And if you go back, there's a couple of good ones in there, but there's a lot of crap.
Mm-hmm.
There's comedy really doesn't age well normally.
It's of its time.
A lot of it's of its time. Of its time, but Young Frankenstein totally holds up.
Yeah. So Tower Inferno was number 1. It made $50 million.
That's adorable.
Isn't that adorable? Everybody drink.
Do you want to hear about some of the songs from 74?
I can't wait. Please.
I decided to move it around because I just want to kind of give a flavor, but these are just some of my favorite songs. Lynyrd Skynyrd, Sweet Home Alabama.
Oh, yeah. You still can't get away from that song.
It's a good song, man.
It is.
Dolly Parton, Jolene.
I love that song. Dolly Parton.
Yep. Steve Miller, The Joker.
That's a good song, too.
Good song. Stevie Wonder, Living for the City.
One of my favorite Stevie Wonder songs. I love that song.
Paul McCartney and Wings, Band on the Run.
I love Paul McCartney and Wings.
I fucking love Paul McCartney and Wings.
These are such good songs.
These are such, the Jackson 5 Dancing Machine.
That
song
is a fucking bop.
And my last one, Bay City Rollers, Saturday Night.
Oh my God, that's a great song too.
Yeah, that's all 1974.
Did you ever see So I Married an Axe Murderer?
I have, because my sister was an extra in that movie.
I didn't know
and you
that.
could see her, yeah.
Oh, in this where he's doing spoken word poetry?
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Isn't it the dad in that? Doesn't he like the Bay City Rollers a lot or something?
Oh, yeah, they play that because he's Scottish.
Yeah.
So, like, when they're at his house, and it's like Brenda Fricker or somebody is his mother.
Yes.
And and they play that song, kind of like to say, we're Scottish.
We're super Scottish.
Because Mike Myers is very subtle.
So subtle. We should put that one on the list. That's a good one.
I haven't seen it in years, but yeah.
What else are you dorking out about?
I can't remember if I mentioned this before, but I've watched it twice now, and it's on Netflix. And it's just called Pretend It Is a City. And Fran Lebowitz is a writer, and she's a longtime New Yorker, writes about New York and culture, and she was totally at the cool places in the 70s. and she's really good friends with Martin Scorsese, and he basically she just has a comment, an opinion about everything, and she's hilarious. And it's 7 parts, and some people think it's too long.
Hmm.
I mean, for me, it's great. I mean, I miss New York too. So it's just her walking around New York and just saying things.
Yeah.
But she's really witty and funny. And then she's also the special guest on NPR's Bullseye with Jesse Thorne. It's a podcast. And
Okay. I've never
Julie,
listened.
it's pretty good. It's an interview show. Jesse Thorne's really funny. He's with John Hodgman, like Hodgman's Judge
Oh,
John
okay.
Hodgman. Julie Klausner is a comedian. She was the creator of Difficult People on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing the interview, and she's also a longtime New Yorker and very funny. And, it's just friendly, but it's now that she's been in quarantine, like her ideas about like what it's like to be in New York during quarantine. It's just really funny, and I just really enjoy her.
It is on my list. So
Hmm.
I will move it up since you're recommending it. I have something from Netflix too. I watched the first 2 episodes of We Are the Champions. Have
What's
you?
that?
It is it's a short documentary series. Each episode is about, I think each episode's like 30 minutes. It's really easy to watch. And it's kind of about weird competitions. So like
Oh,
the
cool.
first one is about this thing it's in England somewhere, and it's a cheese rolling. So they like roll this wheel of cheese down a hill, and you're supposed to like follow after it, and the hill is like crazy steep, and people get injured on this hill every year doing this like cheese rolling
Oh, that
competition.
sounds amazing.
It's fucking bananas. It's narrated by Rainn Wilson. It looks super dangerous. I don't understand it. But so I watched that episode, and then I watched the second episode, which is chili eating competition. And by chili,
Oh,
I mean like hot peppers.
ooh.
And it was to the point where I was like, this is like a horror movie. I'm going to throw up. Like, it's really kind of gross to me. I was like, who does this? But it was like about this man who breeds like he creates these chili peppers, like all these hybrids. They're like the fucking hottest things in the world. And then he had like a world like chili eating competition and invited like champs from all over the world to come, and it tells all their stories and why they do what they do. And it was really interesting because it turned out a lot of them are in recovery. So it's like they're like replacing like drugs or alcohol with like hot. I don't know. It's really interesting.
That's bizarre because it's either that or sugar.
Right?
When my brother gave up drinking, he became a total sugar freak.
Mm-hmm. I could see
Yeah.
it.
It's like some people are spicy and some people like savory. I'm much more savory. Spicy, I'm not a huge fan of.
I like a little spice, but like even like the most mild thing that they would eat would be too spicy for me because
Yeah.
I'm a 50-year-old white lady. Like I'm totally boring. But like it's fucking bananas. I haven't watched all the episodes yet. I know there's one about called dog dancing with like where you're dancing with dogs apparently. I'm definitely going there's one about like fantastical like hairstyling, and
Ooh.
these are all like weird competitions. I don't know. It's a really easy watch. It's 30 minutes. It's just it's something to watch. I really like it. I like the chili one a lot actually cuz I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that it was going to be these people. I don't know, they have reasons for doing what they're doing, and I like hearing why. It's good.
That's the best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's narrated by Rainn Wilson, if I didn't mention that, who played Dwight on The Office. So if you're watching it and you're like, that sounds familiar, that's why. And then we were talking about this off air, and I wanted to give a shout out because we all need this right now. I finally have started taking advantage of the Calm app. And I just want to say how amazing it is. Like it's if you can have the Calm app, you should use it. It's filled with like there's a ton of celebrities on there like reading stories for like to help you sleep and things like that. And one of them is Idris Elba. He has the best voice. He has the best. I was like, I'll be downloading that right now. Like Laura Dern is one of one of the people. Like it's just all these different people. There's some are like sleep stories, so it's like stories you can listen to that like kind of help you fall asleep. There's things for meditation. There's like kind of almost like white noise things. It's like I need beach sound effects or waterfall sound of,
Yeah.
things like that. Like I took like a super super hot bath and put on like the beach sounds, and I came out feeling so relaxed. It was the best feeling. So if you can get the Calm app, I highly recommend it. I don't know how much it is because I got it. Work gave it to me. My job gave it to me, but
Mhm.
it's awesome. It's rad, and we all need
I
it right
used
now.
I used to listen to a podcast called Sleep with Me, and it's a
Oh
guy in the Bay
yeah.
Area, and he just tells stories. And it was like a thing I was hooked on for a while. And he would just, my favorite thing he did, he would talk about like Star Trek episodes and just go into really deep, you know, details, and I would pass out. My favorite he did was,
It's like talking to me or my husband, basically. You
yeah,
fucking
oh yeah.
dorks.
And then no, my favorite was what he did. He had a salad spinner. So he talked about the box, and then he unboxed it, and he talked about what it looked like and what he planned to do and how it works. And his voice is just so nice and calming. And then people write to him, and he'll say good night to you if you write to him. And he's just like good night, Margo, good night, Sonia, good night. He's a really sweet man. I was totally into this for a while there. So if you're looking for that kind of thing, and it's free, it's just a podcast
Oh,
called Sleep with Me.
that's awesome. I have never heard of this. I'm gonna write it
Yeah.
down.
It's been around for a few years.
All right, sleep with me.
Yeah. And I also, if you don't mind, I was looking
Yeah.
at iTunes,
Mm-hmm.
and we got a couple of positive reviews.
Did we?
Uh, yeah.
I'm so behind on that. Please tell me.
So there's Wen, and then there's Fangirl Laura and Trod, Trod.
Okay.
They each left us 5-star reviews and talked about how much they like the show. So thank you
Oh,
guys so much.
thank you for that. I'm so grateful. We get a lot of 1-star reviews from people who are like, Sonia swears too much. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I do. And also like, lady podcasters hurt my fifis. So, thank you for that. I appreciate that. That's nice of them.
Yeah, because we love doing this. So
We
thank you.
do. This show is so fun for us. We love it. And if you want some stickers, email us at dorkingoutshow@gmail.com. We'll send you some stickers. Uh, that's a good transition to our Apple podcast. Leave us a review. It helps us find our people. We're
Mm-hmm.
super grateful for that. And you can find us at dorkingoutshow.com and dorkingoutshow on Twitter, sometimes Instagram, but not very often. Where can people find you, Margo?
You could find me at Brooklyn Fitchick for Twitter and Instagram, and my blog is brooklynfitchick.com.
And you can find me at thesoniashow.com and the Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram, where I post photos of my dogs and beer. And this was super fun. I am so glad that we did a comedy and that we did a really good comedy. We need more comedy, please.
Super duper!